Left of the box. And so I'm going to start off with the University of Toronto getting back into the swing of things. So last year they had one of the longest and largest pro-Palestinian encampments on their grounds. There were issues, of course. There was some violence, but that was usually done by security and Zionists coming to cause trouble. It was a predominantly peaceful protest, but politicians were calling them out. One politician was like, oh, this looks a little Hamasy to me, all this language and stuff they're using, pointing to a chalk drawing on a sidewalk that said, Free Palestine. Clearly, that's what it said. And so there was a lot of controversy around that. And eventually the courts got involved and they shut the encampment down. So instead of like digging in and forcing the police to remove them, they didn't want that scene. They didn't want that brutality. So they agreed to take the tents down and leave the grounds. But now that the school season is starting up again, a lot of the protests that you saw got shut down last year, they're going to start back up again. And I'm all for that because we still have a prime minister, Justin Trudeau, who is very apologetic to Netanyahu and the Israeli government. And even after all the evidence, all the video, all the reports, the doctors coming back talking about the horrendous acts that are happening, what's happening to the people, the lack of care, the Israeli government stating exactly what they're doing, the ICC coming out and saying that this is a probable genocide, and these are the IC coming out and saying that Israel needs to leave the West Bank and Gaza because they're an occupying force, and just so much. He still is so, well, Israel has a right to defend itself. So let's get into this, shall we? So this is Canadians for Justice and Peace in the Middle East. You can't say you're committed to a peaceful future in the Middle East while allowing the transfer of Canadian weapons to Israeli military amid a genocide. When asked, he hasn't imposed a real arms embargo on Israel or cut off diplomatic ties in response to Israel's slaughter of children and students. Justin Trudeau put the blame on Hamas and said that Israel has a right to defend itself, thanks to the journalists who pressed Trudeau on his failure to take genocide seriously. So yes, this is very recent. In fact, there's a second clip that I'll be showing from this exact press conference about Jagmeet Singh no longer keeping ties with the Liberal government, and Jagmeet is the leader of the federal NDP. And so this was all part of the same press conference. So this is super recent that Justin Trudeau is saying that. Now, also, I want to point out that they're saying he hasn't imposed a real arms embargo. And that's because a while back, there was a push in the government, and so they finally made one concession when they're like, okay, we'll stop any future arms contracts. Future, way future. But all the current contracts are still going through. It's the type of wordplay the Liberals love to do. But let's get on to this, what he said.
I know that there are a lot of students and parents and teachers and a lot of people across the country who are wondering why, given the compassion we have for our own children here, the Canadian government remains complicit in the slaughter of civilians, including children and students in Palestine. What do you say to all the students who are watching, wondering why Canada hasn't done more to end that violence?
First of all, that's a really good question from the reporter. I'm glad that we finally have a reporter out there just kind of like really calling it out for what it is. Because so often the reporters are still kind of framing all the stories from the perspective of the Israeli government.
We have been calling for a ceasefire since December. We need to see an end to the violence.
Since December. The genocide started in October. Should have called for a ceasefire right off the bat. If there was an actual ceasefire in the early weeks of October's, a lot of the hostages that are currently deceased that Israel claims to care about so much would still be alive.
We need to see a return of the hostages. We need to see Hamas lay down its arms and stop using Palestinian children and civilians as shields.
Hamas isn't using Palestinian civilians as human shields. That would imply that, it'd be useful, that it would make them less of a Israel doesn't care. They don't care. They will bomb a hospital claiming Hamas is in it with civilians in it. They don't care. And for Hamas to lay down their arms, what exactly have they done since the beginning of all of this? How much fighting back have they been doing? With what army? They're not the ones that need to lay down their arms. They're the ones that are willing to have a ceasefire. It's Netanyahu who refuses to have that. It's Netanyahu who refuses to stop the bombing and the killing.
We need to see the Israeli government abide by international law and rules, and we need an immediate ceasefire. We need to get back on that path towards a two-state solution where a peaceful, secure Israel lives alongside a peaceful, secure Palestinian state. That is the work that Canada has been doing on the world stage for many months. That is what...
No, we haven't. No, we haven't. As far as I know, Justin Trudeau hasn't said anything about the incursions onto the West Bank that recently happened. And he doesn't say anything about individual Palestinians that have been targeted and killed. But, he tweets out about the 6 Israeli hostages that were killed. But no mention of any individual Palestinians.
We are going to continue to do, to push for that two-state solution.
Follow up. It hasn't really been having an impact, though, and a lot of people have been saying for months that the Canadian government should unequivocally condemn Israel, cut diplomatic ties, and categorically have an army.
You see, I'm nodding along with the reporter because I'm like, yeah, that should happen. But Justin Trudeau there is nodding along like, I hear you, and I already have an answer plan that I'm going to say to this because, I'm nodding my head to let you know that I am hearing you, but I'm not listening to you.
Arms embargo, including sending weapons and arms goods to other countries like the United States. We know they're getting stuff from Quebec that are then being sent to Israel to bomb Palestinians. Why haven't you put an end to that?
Israel has a right to defend itself.
He's still saying it. He's still saying it. Israel has a right to defend itself. The official number is over 40,000, but they've basically stopped counting. Unofficial numbers are close to 200,000 people dead in Gaza. I suspect the number's much higher, but when you have entire families and communities buried under rubble where there's no one left to report them even as missing, the amount of death that is currently in Gaza, it's inconceivable. This isn't defense. Israel isn't defending itself by slaughtering all these innocent people. They're committing a genocide. And for Justin Trudeau to still say, well, Israel has a right to defend themselves is a whole lot of fucking bullshit. I don't know how we can have any leaders that, purport to care about international humanitarian law that would still say something like that. Unless they're so far up the ass of Netanyahu, they could, brush his teeth with their tongue type thing. I don't know. It's disgusting that Justin Trudeau would still be saying this.
In accordance with international law. On October 7th of last year, they lived through one of the most horrific terrorist attacks in history.
Going back to October 7th and the most horrific terrorist attacks in his... What exactly has Israel been doing? You know, over 1,000 people died on October 7th. Ooh, it was bad. You know, I'm not arguing that. Hundreds of thousands of people are now dead in Gaza. How is that not a terrorist attack? But you go back to October 7th still? This isn't about October 7th anymore. This is about the people struggling to survive in Gaza. And Canada is propping up the government that is committing this genocide.
And we need to continue to stand for peace, for Israelis, for Palestinians in the region long into the future. That's why we're calling on Hamas to lay down its arms. That's why we're calling for Israel to abide by international law. That's why we're calling for an immediate ceasefire so that we can get massive amounts of humanitarian aid to end the ongoing tragedies that are happening in Gaza right now. This is an incredibly difficult situation that has repercussions, tangible repercussions on millions of Canadians who are worried about the rise in hatred here at home, who are worried about sending their kids to school as the new school year starts in universities and high schools across the country.
Just to be clear, he's talking specifically about Jewish people who feel threatened when they see a pro-Palestinian encampment, peaceful encampment, let's just say like a peaceful protest, and some Zionist students who then feel threatened by that. That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about the Palestinians that are going to school here who have literally had dozens of family members wiped out.
We need to remember who we are as Canadians, which is fighting for our values of peace, openness, and understanding, putting aside the hate, and being committed to a peaceful future in the Middle East where a secure Israel lives alongside a secure and internationally recognized Palestinian state.
Next question. It sounds like you're downplaying the significance of genocide, or what could very well be genocide.
Thank you.
You don't want to speak to the genocide piece?
Next question. You got two questions. There's a whole bunch of other journalists. I look forward to hearing from them as well. Thank you.
Such a smug-ass grin right there. Sorry, you got your
Good
questions
afternoon,
in. Only allowed 2 questions. Haha, you didn't ask that one first. Such a smug-ass grin right there. So here we have Samira, and she is a journalist, and she's been following a lot of what was happening on the encampment last year, and now she's following through with that. And so here is one of the first protests.
Free! Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
The students united will never be defeated!
The students united will never be defeated! The students united will never be defeated! The students united will never be defeated!
The schools divest now, 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 now.
What? We are the students too. We won't be silenced. 3. The schools divest now, 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 now.
UFC, pick a side.
UFC, pick a side.
Justice or genocide.
Justice or genocide.
Justice or genocide.
Justice or genocide.
So again, peaceful protest march. And then what happens? more of the protests in the building. So, yeah, they're in the building, they're making noise, they're bringing attention to themselves. That's kind of what protests are for. That's they're not going to be convenient. They're going to be an inconvenience for a lot of people, but they're not threatening anyone. They're not preventing people from moving around. They're not, endangering anyone by having this protest. And, some people say, well, it's very disturbing for, the other kids that are trying to go to class. And it's like, yeah, protests are supposed to be disruptive, but no one's being harmed by what they're doing. But harm is happening. Again, it's not from the protesters. It's from the cops. So we just saw them in the building. Here are the police removing them from the building. And as you can see, the police are getting a lot more aggressive with shoving and manhandling the students. So the chant that they're doing is actually, it's actually quite catchy. TPS, KKK, IDF, you're all the same. TPS being Toronto Police Service. Being very aggressive with the students, shoving them, throwing them down for having a peaceful protest in the building. And there were also counter-protesters who are, let's just say, really horrible people.
Are you expecting a lot of people? Morning.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. You're here to counter-protest?
Yes,
You're not students here, obviously.
I'm not.
No.
And they have 39 groups behind them that are not students.
Yeah.
Only they were all students that were protesting. Maybe some outside people, but the vast majority of them were actually students and people connected to what is happening in Gaza, losing friends and family members.
Yeah. What do you know which ones they are?
I'll know as it's going on, but
You see, I love that kind of response there. I interrupted it, so let's go back just a moment.
I'm not. And they have 39 groups behind them that are not students.
Yeah. What do you know which ones they are?
I'll know as it's going on, but
Yeah, so who are these groups that you're talking about that are supporting the students? The 39 groups. That's a very specific number. So how many of those can you name that are behind the students, propping them up?
Are you expecting a lot of people?
Yeah.
I recognize you though. You were in the, driving that Rebel News truck.
Yep.
Yeah, I covered this when it happened a while ago, and it was all in the news. There was a Rebel News truck with like these LED boards or whatever, with some extraordinarily Islamophobic messaging on it, basically saying that Canada is getting invaded by Muslims. And is this the Canada you want? And it was all in the news, and apparently this is the person who was driving that truck that was funded by Rebel Media, which is a right-wing extremist media outlet. Can't say I'm surprised that he would be showing up here.
So here we have Mayor Weinstein, or Meyer Weinstein, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And then that gentleman who was driving the Rebel News truck. You can see on his hat the symbol of Meir Kahanism. That is the Jewish terrorist that killed dozens of Palestinians. He's a representative of the JDL, the Jewish Defense League. Jewish Defense League is on the FBI's terror list, and they have shown up to agitate today as students and faculty return onto the lawn. The JDL is on the FBI's terror watch list, and they are now on the U of T's campus. There is Meyer Weinstein.
Here comes security, special constables. What, are they going to remove them? Are they going to manhandle them?
As I said, this is the game of pensioners. None of these people are students. They are not alumni. Look how friendly they are. Look how friendly they are with a known terror group. Wonderful.
Yeah. So just again, Rebel News online truck driver is the same man I filmed at Occupy U of T. He was wearing the logo of a terrorist organization, Jewish Defense League, and its founder terrorist, Meir Kane. Yeah. Oh, so here's the Rebel News truck that was driving around Toronto. So just, it was saying things like not a citizen. It was showing images of people in prayer and saying they must be stopped, that they're, you know, what are you willing to do to stop them? They must go. Yeah. So the driver of that truck was showing up at U of T. I don't think he's a student. Just saying. And then we also have a counter protest march.
This is the vigilante organization that prowls around now on the University of Toronto campus. They are a vigilante group. Not sure what they're doing here among the students and faculty. J-Force, it says J-Force. Perhaps they couldn't pass the test to become police, and now this is their lot in life.
Yeah, I don't think those are students either. And then a little bit more. So again, from Samira. So please follow Samira on the Hostile Fart Sauna if you're there. Let's just see. She also has a Patreon that you can go check out. Samira at onthemedia.org. Just, you know, support a journalist that is, you know, doing a lot of good work. Let's get to this.
Here during the Shabbat on Friday with his flag threatening people. That is the flag of the Jewish terrorist organization.
Waving the flag, just waving a terrorist hate symbol. And yet, this, where's the pushback on this? But if you write in chalk on the sidewalk, Palestine will be free. Oh, that's anti-Semitic terrorism right there.
The Jewish terrorists, perhaps it's a mom and son team here.
We would like there to be peaceful relations with the Islamic community.
They have now all arrived on campus. That is a terrorist flag there. The flag of the JDL. For some reason, the security guard keeps covering the flag that I'm trying to film. Not sure why he's doing that. This was the same kid that was...
So look at these students here. Yeah, students right there, you know, doing the counter protest. University. Yeah, those, they went all the way to university to do their these students at the university.
This was the same kid that was during the Shabbat service on Friday, was here with the same flag. This
Yeah.
just keeps covering the flag. I'm not sure why. Wearing a balaclava and holding the terrorist flag of the JDL here. Probably Meyer Kahan supporter. Pardon? Kawabunga. Kawabunga.
Yeah, all those students there. And so she was saying, yeah, for the first time since students at Occupy U of T departed, if not now, org and Jews Say No are holding their Shabbat ceremony inside the People's Circle for Palestine. The Palestine Solidarity encampment was up for 63 days at the University of Toronto. And so this was the gathering she said that other guy was harassing them at.
The first Shabbat ceremony is being held here.
And just peaceful demonstrations, peaceful shows of solidarity, and look at how the police treat them.
Here on the lawn of the University of Toronto since the encampment, the People's Circle for Palestine, was shut down a little more than a month ago. Jews Say No to Genocide.
And I want to focus on Heather McPherson. So in getting to know your politicians of Canada, Heather McPherson is MP for Edmonton Strathcona, and she is NDP MP. And she had some thoughts about what's happening with Gaza, and she actually had some strong words that I wish Jagmeet Singh would actually say, which he hasn't as far as I know, and much more bold than anything Justin Trudeau would ever say.
Hey everyone, I am in the Montreal airport, and before I get on my plane to head back to Edmonton, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my day-to-day. I stopped by the Montreal riding of LaSalle and Verdun, and I met so many people today, so many people who are disappointed and frustrated by Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government. You know, the lack of courage and concrete action to prevent a genocide in Gaza and to push for the protection of human rights, for peace and justice for everyone in the region are definitely amongst the frustrations people have expressed to me. And New Democrats share that frustration. You know, Trudeau has the power to act, and he's choosing not to. He failed to end arms transfers to Netanyahu. He failed to sanction Netanyahu's war cabinet. He failed to recognize the state of Palestine, as 145 other countries have done. He's failed to stand up for international law and for human rights for everyone. You know, we've ended the deal with the Liberals because they lack the moral backbone and courage, in fact, the humanity to take action in the face of the genocide. So right now, in this by-election, people can vote for a party that will fight for human rights. People can vote for Craig Sauvé, and people can vote for the NDP.
So a lot stronger words than I've heard come from Jagmeet Singh when it comes to this issue, and she is rightly calling out Justin Trudeau for his lack of action.